Almost a year and a half into COVID, and we're asking, are you coping or are you overthinking? Hi, I'm Riyaz Safi, and this is the Thinking Out Loud podcast. And I ask the question that you think about but often don't end up asking. Please show some love by subscribing to the podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss a new episode when posted. And if you like this episode, please feel free to share as that will help us grow. Jody, and welcome to Thinking Out Loud.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Jody, lockdown fatigue and cabin fever is something that's been going on for a while now. I remember in March 2020, we were told, okay, we're going to have a small lockdown maybe for 3 weeks because we've got some cases of COVID starting in South Africa. And here we are almost a year and a half later. We've been through one wave, the second wave, and now going through the third wave. So lots of people have been stressing as they were navigating from one wave to another, as we'd say. How does one handle your mental health during this time?
I think it's really important, first off, just to keep as positive a mindset or as hopeful a mindset. You know, some people don't like the word positive, but just to really focus in on your locus of control. Like, we can't control what's happening with COVID. You can't control what's happening now with riots and all sorts of things. But you can control the things in your life. So just very much focusing on what you can do in your day to make it happy, to make it good, to kind of be positive and warm to the people around you. I think that's very important in terms of looking after your mental health. Recognizing this isn't going to last forever, and how can you sort of really maximize? You know, there are a lot of opportunities in this pandemic as well. You know, opportunities for more family time, or opportunities to do some of the things at home that you haven't had the time for, and that sort of thing. I also think that, increasing kind of mindfulness or meditation practices helps a lot. And on top of that, I definitely think that exercise, even if it's doing, vinyasa flow yoga at home in your lounge, it's definitely does help people a lot, just coping with stress, fatigue, anxiety, boredom, all those kind of things. So I think that really helps with mental health a lot. And of course, for people who already had pre-existing conditions, and sometimes this is aggravating it, obviously, going to therapy or coaching, journaling, writing what you're grateful about, all those kind of things really mitigate and really help to deal with mental health during this period.
Why is mental health important?
I think, mental health is important if you go from the individual out, internally, it's important because it's what makes your quality of life. It's what makes you happy. It's what makes you enjoy things. It's what makes you be able to handle things, to be resilient, cope well, and just generally have a good quality of life. And then obviously, if you as an individual are having a good quality of life, it's also having an impact on the environment around you. I was reading an article about, how 25% or even more of children are growing up with an adult or a parent or a guardian who does not have good mental health. And that just has basically generational effects on the quality of life and the self-esteem and all those kind of things of people around them, and obviously of their children. So it is extremely important to have good mental health. And obviously, there's a lot of people who believe in kind of, energy manifestations, and the way we're thinking is kind of attracting things to us. So it has huge implications. I think it's a basis of our well-being.
Now, you see a lot of clients on a daily basis And of course, since lockdown has started, you must have come across many clients going through uh, dealing with mental wellness and health, etc. Is there any such client, just to put it into perspective for people listening, that you would like to share an example of course, without naming them, just so people understand the type of mental struggles that people are going through while dealing with COVID-19 in particular?
Yes, it would be useful to kind of say I almost have like clusters. So I have sort of one set of clients who are just dealing with what we call complicated grief. You know, they've
Mm.
lost a child, and then they've lost a sibling, and then they've lost a relative, and then they've lost a parent. So, you know, there's a couple of clients that are just going through this almost like an onslaught of grief, that as they start coming to terms with kind of the loss of one person, there's a loss of another person. And then obviously the implications for all the relatives are then grieving. So everybody's trying to support everybody. So obviously there's a lot in terms of grieving and losses. Then if I think of sort of another set of clients, there's very heightened anxiety. You know, some people are very, very afraid of getting COVID, very afraid when they do get COVID. You know, very often they've gone to hospital, been on ventilators, and they're terrified, which doesn't help their breathing either. And then constantly sort of terrified after that. You know, after those kind of events, there's almost kind of a trauma reaction, a fear of what could happen or what could happen to those around them. And they're kind of dealing with that maybe on a daily basis, that this constant anxiety that's sort of hitting them physically, and that they're kind of thinking very anxious thoughts and needing to kind of get support to just get through a day, you know, without such a constant level of anxiety, a lot of panic attacks. And then maybe there's kind of like another sort of cluster of clients that are getting very depressed. You know, they feel fatigued, they feel very bored. And as we know, boredom can very often be the start of a depression cycle. They're very worried about everything that's happening. There've been job losses, or there's threat to their job, or they're working half the time, or their business. And so it's just that constant sort of negative thoughts, feeling hopeless, just not finding enjoyment in life, just feeling very stuck, very sort of helpless in the whole situation. So those are kind of the main sort of clients that I'm seeing, with the main sort of presentations and the main sort of struggles. Obviously, for people who have OCD and things like that, you know, this is really exacerbating it. And obviously for adolescents, you know, they're saying that this is impacting sort of adolescents quite a lot, because as they're supposed to be moving out into their social world, they're actually being pushed back to stay at home. And they're getting very involved with social media and games. And their parents, of course, are often working and can't always sort of supervise and be on top of things. So I guess that would be maybe the fourth kind of thing that we're seeing, is kids getting quite addicted to social media, to video games, and being quite isolated at a time when they're meant to be moving sort of out and socializing and kind of finding themselves in a lot of ways.
You've made a couple of interesting points there. Firstly, anxiety and depression you spoke about. Of course, human beings are creatures that are socially outgoing, wanting to meet with people, go out for a cup of coffee, have dinner, go to the movies, whatever you might enjoy doing. So I guess that element has been pulled away. So you say it leads to a lot of boredom, etc. Do you also believe that that could lead to addiction, like be it alcohol or drugs, or even social media, as you pointed out? I mean, lots of people find themselves mindlessly scrolling through social media.
Yes, I mean, I do think that a lot of people are turning, sort of turning to cope with the stress and to cope with the challenges. Um, a lot of people do turn towards alcohol, towards drugs, towards, as you say, the social media. And that, of course, then has an impact on their environment and the people around them. And there are quite alarming statistics because a lot of abuse, spousal abuse, child abuse does take place with alcohol and drug addiction. Um, and so that is definitely on the increase. And I really do think what I said earlier is that, we have to redefine our goals. We have to, okay, so I'm staying at home more. So for those living with families, let me really build relationships. Let me really do board games, or, you know, let's talk about some of the philosophy, study the Bible, or, talk about the traditions of our Hinduism, or, whatever your culture or religion is. It really is a time where you can really bond as a family and talk about some of those really significant, important things in your life, your beliefs and your, culture and all sorts of things. And really, people sort of take it. It's really a time to redefine goals from, oh, I want a promotion, or I want to build a new this, or, I want to go cycle the 94.7 to, I'd really like to make my home look beautiful, or I'd really like to develop a meditation practice or a yoga practice, or I'd really like to write down the story of my life and journal it, or I'd really like to learn to cook a different kind of food, Vietnamese or Italian or curries or whatever, so that you're redefining your goals, because people need to have purpose. And that can protect against some of the boredom, against some of the isolation, against some of the some of the things that people that push you towards addiction, and the things that people are going through, maybe too much introspection and too much aloneness. I do think for single people it's important, and and if you're on family, but especially for single people to have a Zoom coffee date, to find ways to be connecting and kind of really plan it, especially for the weekends if you're not working. Really plan some coffee date, lunch dates that you can have on Zoom, have conversations over the phone with your friends, really be in touch, so that there isn't such a huge sense of sort of loneliness or isolation.
You've spoken about a couple of things there that makes a lot of sense. And I must be honest with you, I know a couple of people that have come across that have been going through that. And I guess it's very normal at this time as people are navigating through this COVID situation that we're being faced with. Of course, it's the unseen. No one knows when it's going to come to an end as well. I guess that's the biggest worry most people have. When
Yes.
do you think it's time for someone to seek professional help if you're going through any of what you described: anxiety, worry, depression, boredom, be it, of course, addiction?
So we always say that there's several reasons why you would seek help. One, if it's really affecting your functioning. So if you find that you are just really becoming aggressive and irritable, you are really are overusing alcohol, or just watching TV far too much, or whatever it is in terms of social media, or using drugs. If you are if you're finding that it's affecting basically your relationships with people, or the way you're functioning at your job, or the way you're functioning in your life, you definitely should be seeking some professional support. But I very much believe in sort of the self-actualization. If you want to, if you're just not feeling great and you're just feeling like this could potentially become a problem, why not go and get the support and sort of do something preventative? It's a shorter therapy. It's more useful. You haven't yet kind of really had to suffer or really had impacts in your life. And that can also be like a sort of growth cycle, a good time to go and do it, to go and seek therapy or professional support. Obviously, if other people are suggesting it, because sometimes we can't see ourselves and we can't see what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
What I do find is often there's a kind of a lethargy. There's heightened fear and lethargy that don't always require you going to therapy. You can listen to podcasts, you can be doing workshops, you can, be reading up on various things you can do. And I think that sometimes people hear the words mindfulness or meditation or yoga or exercise, and they sort of think, yeah, I should do that. Much like we should eat our 5 vegetables or, or whatever. But they sort of just dismiss it. And if you really, there's lots of things, on YouTube and all over the place that really give useful advice. If you started, there's a lovely lady from the UK, Charlie Fellows, on the YouTube, who does amazing vinyasa yoga, and she does a 30-day program. There's another person, Adrian, if you're less sort of advanced, she does stunning programs. And you can actually have a goal of like getting really fit and going on a 30-day program. There are lots of meditations that are available that you can slowly train yourself. I was part of a study where they worked with post-traumatic stress in Soweto, and helped people doing transcendental meditation, and they had phenomenal results. It's not just sort of, eat your 5 vegetables and then none of us do. We have a helping of peas. It genuinely, if you try these things, they really, really, really mitigate against poor mental health. They're really solid, useful things to do. But obviously, if you're not finding relief, or if you're finding you're just lacking joy in life, everything's getting flat, you're constantly anxious, it's starting to affect things quite a lot. You're putting on weight or losing weight, you're battling with sleep, definitely consult a professional.
Now, I ask you to share some more practical tips with us. The one thing that a lot of people are going through, like you say, besides the ones you've spoken about earlier as well, is fear. And that is something which I believe a lot of people, it's making a lot of people anxious as a result of it, because they fear losing a loved one. They fear getting COVID. They fear being in hospital. They fear what's going to happen with their jobs. Everything centers around fear. And if you find yourself in that situation, how would you really get out of it? Or what should you? I know you said earlier that possibly don't think about the things you can't control, but as a human being, you think about these things, don't you?
Yes, yeah. Well, I think really in terms of fear, some of the sort of practical things to do is don't watch too much news. Because news specializes in reporting what's wrong. But there's lots that's right. So I find with myself, I check in. I mean, you don't want to be ignorant, but I check in, every couple of days, just get the highlights. But a lot of people that I've worked with who have a lot of fear, we've just worked on just not watching so much news and so much of the scary stuff, because that definitely helps you. I definitely think with conversations as well, there's lots of positives to focus on. Try to speak about that more. Obviously, it helps to share your fears, to talk about your feelings. But if you find that that's all you're doing, you're probably actually, kind of flaming the fire, fanning the flames. It's better to, talk when you need to somebody close, to just get rid of it. And I think we should be encouraging each other more. There's lots of positive things that we've seen, even in the last couple of days. And people who are really caring and supportive and doing all of the right things. So I think that helps. I think sometimes when you're thinking fear thoughts, it helps to actually, it sounds crazy, but it helps to actually say out loud, stop it, because it automatically interrupts your thought flow. And I think to really, be doing all the vision boards and things that everyone talks about, so that you you have topics you can move your mind to. Like sometimes you think, oh, I must think about beautiful things, I must think about happy things, I must think about what I'm grateful for. Oh gosh, I can't think what those are. But if you think about, I love babies and I love animals and I love waterfalls and I love nature scenes, and I love, I'm so impressed by this artist and I'm so impressed by that excellent thing. And you actually have like a little bit of a list. And in the future, I really want to learn how to make the most incredible, curries or meringue or whatever it is. And you've got that to move your mind to sort of deliberately, rather than just sort of fumbling around thinking, oh, what else can I think about? It does help you, because really it's our thoughts that determine our emotions.
An idle mind is the devil's mind, as they would say, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
How do you keep your mental health in check at home? Like now we all find ourselves at home. You said, obviously you suggested earlier doing things like yoga, learning how to cook, but maybe 3 or 4 practical examples that you felt worked with your clients, and to people listening to us right now, they could say, okay, let me try this. This is going to maybe help me divert my mind from all the noise that's going out there, be it the COVID, be it the riots that we've seen. I'll do this just to make sure I have a good, healthy mind.
What helps a lot of people is simple things, is just to write down every day 3 things that you're grateful for about the day. It could be the weather, or it could be your lovely hot bath, or that you had a great meal, or something went well with a client, or proposal, or a tender, or a project, or whatever.
Gratitude.
Yeah, just write down 3 or 4 things you're really grateful for. I think the second thing is to actually write down 2 or 3 things that you feel good about yourself in the day. Whether it was you ate a healthy meal, or you did your exercises, or you felt you had a good hair day. I mean, it doesn't matter, but just to be writing down some of those really positive things, to jot them down so that you can see, look, there's a lot that I'm accomplishing, because the people do want to have a sense of purpose. I think what also helps people mental health is to give to others, to send something encouraging. I know I've had, my mother's actually sent me 2 packages. It's so lovely to go to Postnet and pick up a package and get something lovely, and it really encourages the giver and the receiver. And I think, like I said, to do meditations, there's a lot on YouTube. You can do a workshop, Vishen Lakhiani on Mind Valley. There's Joe Dispenza. It depends which sort of religion and beliefs you believe in. There's a lot of Christian ones. There's a lot of sort of more esoteric ones. There are a great many that really, if you do a 5 or 10 minute meditation, I mean, there's scientific proof that it's changing your brain and that you're calmer. You're going to be more relaxed. I think those are, and gather all the news snippets. I mean, I've been seeing now with the riots, things that make me want to cry, with just people from all different cultures and races and backgrounds coming together to help each other, and classes and whatever, coming together to support each other and help each other. It's really encouraging, beautiful news, and almost keeping a scrapbook of that. All those kind of things, really help on a sort of a daily basis. Some of the other things like tapping are, I've just actually been to get my nails done, and I helped I did it with the lady there. She'd been through some trauma and been robbed and whatever, and we did sort of some tapping exercises, and she was feeling so much better. That's also kind of available. There's lots of programs of that also on YouTube that you can follow along.
Now, if you're someone like me, I'm a person that has a very busy mind. I can think of a million things at once. and I guess the society we live in and the technology that we have, we're very distracted. Let's call a spade a spade. And I'm quite liking the mindfulness stuff
Yes.
that you spoke about. Now, I'm someone that never done meditation, etc. And a lot of people say it is good. It's also, you just have to listen to the sound of the ocean, or something that's just pleasing. For someone like me that's never done this, what's the easiest way to start doing that?
So I think that when you're trying to empty your mind, if you have a very busy mind and you're trying to empty your mind or just focus on a flower or just focus on the ocean, it's quite challenging.
Yes.
So I would go, there's free on YouTube, I would go to the 6-phase meditation. It's by Vishen Lakhiani. It's called the 6-phase meditation. And it takes you to it takes you through 6 phases and 2 or 3 minutes of something. So it focuses your mind. So you focus on what you're grateful for. Then you focus on what you want to forgive for the day. Then you focus on what you want to accomplish the next day. Then you focus on who you want to bless. Then so that you actually have focuses. That's the best way to start learning to sort of train your mind and calm your mind if you have an extremely busy mind. To sort of go from a busy mind to trying to make it quiet, it's kind of like that eat, pray, love. She didn't find it very easy, and it isn't. Sometimes it's easier that you're just focusing your mind on something and then focusing it on something and then focusing it on something, but you're slowly training it to do what you want. So I would do something like that. And I've found with my clients who do say they have busy minds and they can't sort of calm and still it, that they have a lot of success and enjoyment from that kind of a meditation.
Jody de Reuck, it's been such a great pleasure having you on Thinking Out Loud. And thank you so much for sharing your there's such insightful information that you've given us right here on the Thinking Out Loud podcast. We wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. And thanks so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it. I wish you the best too. Stay safe and warm, hey?
Certainly will. Thank you. Cheers for now.
Thank you so much for listening in to Thinking Out Loud. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, share, and comment. Until the next episode, bye for now.